Hello, everyone. You are listening to Those Other Girls with Mallory and Friends. I'm Mallory.
And I'm Brooke. And this is Gucci.
And this is a podcast, not like other podcasts. We don't just talk about culture, we change culture. Thank you, live studio audience. Okay, jokes. Anyway, so we have Brooke and Gucci.
Oh, sorry, she's out of pocket. I don't think she likes her Christmas sweater anymore.
Oh, we have Brooke joining us. She's been on, I think, an episode once, and then on the YouTube channel. So you guys might recognize her face. She's also been all over the Instagram page, and we're just really excited to have her coming on and doing a Teacap with us. So before we get into all the things that have happened this week, Brooke, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I would love to, yeah. So my name is Brooke Larkin. I have been a part of the pro-life movement for 11 years now, starting out in the pregnancy center world. I started volunteering for a local pregnancy center in Southern California when I was 16 years old. And funny enough, fast forward 11 years later, and I am now doing community and education outreach for Palmetto Women's Center in Rock Hill, South Carolina. So I've had numerous different volunteer opportunities in the pro-life movement, and most recently I worked for Students for Life of America, and now I'm just very happy to be continuing my career in the pro-life movement with Palmetto Women's. So I'm also a Liberty University graduate, go LU.
He talks about it all the time.
I do, and I live in Charlotte, North Carolina with my husband Dan and our cat Gucci.
Awesome. Well, Brooke, thank you so much for coming on. How has your week been? Do anything fun this week?
I feel like this whole week has been a blur, really. Monday night we had a Christmas movie night, so some friends came over. We watched a Christmas movie, had hot chocolate, and lots of...
What movie did you guys see?
So one of our friends brought his son, who is 5, and he requested Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Aww.
So the animated one, and we're like, well, he wants to watch it. It was $10 on Amazon and about 45 minutes long. But it's okay. And then we started the Christmas Chronicles. If you've never seen it, I love the Christmas Chronicles. Very cheesy, but great Christmas movie.
Is it a cartoon?
No, it's, what's his name?
Real life people?
Yes, it is real life people. The first one came out in like 2019. There's 2 of them now.
Okay.
I recommend. Seen them a couple times now, so. And then the rest of the week. Oh, I actually on Tuesday, Mike Pence came and toured my work. So he came and toured the pregnancy center in Rock Hill that I work at. So I got to go to this like fireside chat that he was doing. He's doing book signings just all around the country. And so he did a book signing at a church in Rock Hill and then came and toured the center. And if you check his Instagram at Mike Pence, I'm at one of the cover photos. So very exciting. He actually spoke at my commencement of Liberty in 2019. So it was great to see him again. And I mean, I was definitely like geeking out. So
that's really cool. Okay. Not to put you on the spot, but what was one takeaway you took away from this fireside chat?
I have always admired his faith in Christ and just his genuineness as a human being. I don't feel like I've met very many politicians that are just genuine. So it was really nice to be up close and personal with him and really see that side of him, because obviously I've seen him on TV, I've seen him in debates, and I've seen him at my commencement, but to see him in a little bit more of an intimate setting and to see that he really does walk the walk. He doesn't just talk the talk. He doesn't just talk about his faith, but he also backs it up with who he is. So they did ask him a question if he was going to run for president, and he did not give an answer. So it's not a yes or no, but he did say that him and his wife, him and his wife are going to follow wherever the Lord leads. So that will be very interesting in the coming year or so to see if he does run.
Yeah. So for Republican side watch, the only person who's really said anything is Donald Trump. Sorry, y'all. I mean, everybody's saying Ron DeSantis. I literally had a conversation with a friend, and I was like, well, Ron hasn't said anything. And she was like, he's running. And I'm like, okay. But, like, we don't know.
I thought I heard that he wanted to stay in Florida since he just got reelected.
I'm sure.
He wanted to stay for another term.
And I think that it would... I used to say that it would be political suicide to run against him if he Ron DeSantis, but now not so much. I think he could. I don't know if he could take Donald Trump, like be his like win the not the midterm, the why am I blanking? Primary. I don't know if Ron DeSantis could beat Trump in a primary. But I don't think it would be political suicide like it would have been months ago. That's just my take.
I mean, I really don't know because there's a lot of people around the country that love Ron DeSantis and there's a lot of people that love Donald Trump. And I feel like the Trumpsters are just so committed. Like these people, I was just like scrolling the comments of the Pence post that I was in, and there's so many people still so mad at Mike Pence.
Mm-hmm.
And just so like, you should have protected our president, like Trump 2024, all this stuff. And I'm like, it's really interesting to see the way that our political climate is going because we do have so many other great conservative potential nominees. So.
Yeah. Especially that aren't in their 80s. So.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at Mike Pence isn't that old. Nikki Haley's not that old. Ron DeSantis has young children. Like, Ted Cruz, I know, is always throwing a hat in the ring.
Always. Every year.
Yeah.
Or every 4 years.
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think that, so the thing is, primaries, this is just me speaking, not sure. What could happen in the primary? Two things. The issue with, not the issue, but like, oh yeah, it is an issue. The issue with primaries is people don't vote in primaries. So the people that do vote are usually people who are diehard, and those are typically Trumplicans. So the Trumplicans are going to come out. No, seriously, the Trumplicans are going to come out. No shade if you're a Trumplican. Nothing against you, I'm just saying. The Trumplicans are going to come out no matter what. Yeah. It's the people who are a little bit not as Trumplican that might not show up for Ron DeSantis. And then the other aspect is those on the left want Trump to run. They want him to be the nominee because they think that he can't win a general, which I won't go back and forth with anybody on that. You know, if you want to know my personal opinion, you can always message me. But they think that he can't win a general. So I can see them also, because there are some states that have open primaries, I can see them voting for Trump as well to have him win the primary. Because Ron DeSantis can win, I think, a general.
Mm-hmm.
That I will say. Ron DeSantis can win a general. I won't comment on the other people, but Ron DeSantis for sure can win a general.
Yeah.
So that's just my 2 cents, what I think is possible.
I mean, you look at every area in Florida, you've seen him handle disaster relief very well. You've seen him handle education very well.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen him handle all the taxes and just being very fiscally responsible with the state's money. And like, you know, every area he's really ticking all the boxes. So I would definitely support him. Like, I mean, I really, at this point, I just want a good conservative in there. So whoever it is, I want someone who loves Jesus and is going to protect our country because it's the greatest country in the world. So.
And someone who can win. I need someone who can win.
Yeah.
That's what's important.
That really is the key. The GOP needs to stop running these people that have no chance.
Yes. And yes. And we've seen, you know, a quick 2 cents about the Herschel Walker race. This is what happens when you don't run good candidates. I'm sorry, he wasn't a good candidate. Yeah. I think now people are like waking up. Not everybody that Trump endorsed was a good candidate. Let's be honest, most of them weren't.
Most of them didn't win.
Most of them didn't win. So that's why we're now at 49-1. because I cannot remember her name, but a Democrat has switched over to independent.
Wait,
So,
I did see that. Yeah, I don't remember her name.
Yeah.
Either. But that is...
let me look her up. That's very interesting. Like right after...
Yeah. Right after Herschel Walker lost.
Yeah, I wonder what that is about.
Why am I blanking on the name of the guy that won?
Warnock.
Yes. He's the fake pastor.
Kristen Sinema.
Okay.
She's switched from Democrat to independent. She'll probably still vote Democrat, so I don't know why she's doing all that, but interesting makeup.
Yeah, very. I wonder if
anyway, we should start... What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I wonder if she's going to do any interviews or anything like that with her reasoning.
I'm sorry, it came in and out for a second.
Sorry, I said I wonder if she's going to do any interviews with her reasoning in the switch.
Ooh, I wonder. Probably. I'm sure she will.
Yeah, I mean, why else do you do
everybody wants to know,
for publicity.
Right. Well, thank you, Brooke, for having us get to know you a little bit better. Before we get into the stories, before we do that, though, I want to do a couple announcements. Join the Patreon, patreon.com/thosearethegirls. I'm so sorry, everybody. I have not coughed in 5 ever, and now I'm coughing every 5 seconds. Join the Patreon. You won't regret it. You're also going to help with you're going to help pay for the different things having to do with the podcast, and then some of the cool activities and things we're going to be doing next year. Merch. It is not too late to get a cute sweatshirt and a hat that will be perfect for the March for Life. Speaking of which, there's going to be the March for Life in South Carolina, North Carolina, and DC. And coincidentally, Brooke and I are going to all three. The one in South Carolina is January 7th. The one in North Carolina is January 14th. And the one in DC is January 21st. So first, second, and third Saturdays in January. And we will be attending all of those. And if you are going by yourself, you can promote that 1 second. Yeah. And if you're going by yourself, reach out to us. thosearethegirls@gmail.com, and you can come with us. Brooke has a cool thing that's happening at the South Carolina one. Tell us about it, Brooke.
I was just going to say, quick note, if you are going to the South Carolina March for Life, we are hosting the first ever South Carolina Student Life Summit. I am helping to plan that with Palmetto Women's Center and some other pregnancy centers and pro-life organizations around the state. So if you're going to the South Carolina March for Life, hang out afterwards, come and join us. We are going to have Emily Albright from Equal Rights Institute as the keynote speaker that afternoon, and lunch will be included. You can look that up on scstudentlifesummit.com. So check that out. If you have any questions, you can message me on Instagram also, which is BrookeLarkin_life.
Woo! Okay. I hope to see everybody that lives in North South Carolina there. I think it's going to be it's going to be the first one. And Brooke and everyone, I know a lot of people that are on her committee team or however you want to put it, that are putting it together, that are great people. And it's going to be great. I'm excited to go. All right. Yeah, let's get to our main story.
Super excited to see it all come together.
Yes, there is a slight delay. So if you're listening, I hope it's not, obvious. But we're going to do our best here. If you donate to our Patreon, this will help. Eventually we won't have these type of issues. Eventually we'll have a studio. That's why we need you to join the Patreon. Patreon.com/thosearethegirls. Okay. Headed to the main stories. The main stories are brought to you by Culture of Life 1972, Garnu, American Women Beauty, and Little Co. Okay, so first story is really just an update about Brittany Griner. If you guys know the joke me and Isabel had about sleeping over in a jail, a night in with the girlies, that was referring to the first time we reported on this. But Brittany Griner has been sent home from Russia. She was in a Russian jail. It's been very interesting. Maybe we'll do like a full-fledged story. Like, this is just like an update I'm giving. Next week, there's a lot of things to discuss about it, in the sense of like the arms dealer that was traded, who is dying and isn't really a harm to society, but it's also kind of like, why did we trade an arms dealer? From that to her voice. Maybe I've just never heard her speak before, but her voice is deep. I mean, it is deep. And someone was like sharing pictures of her. This is awful, and like, I don't condone this, but like, without her shirt on, and she has like no boobs. So there's a lot to this. You think so? You think she's really a man?
No, I said she's an athlete. So a lot of like really active women don't really get huge breasts when they're active. So
no. I did ballet. I've seen small breasts in women. Like, she had none. Like, maybe legit. I'll have to send you the picture.
Yeah. Maybe she had breast cancer, or like, something like
maybe.
That. We can't make assumptions here.
That's true. I can't make assumptions. And I'm not saying that she is a man. I'm not saying that at all. I hate when people do that. I'm just saying, like, it's very. She leads into the stereotype of a female basketball player. Not all female basketball players. I know tons of that are feminine, but she leads into the stereotype. But there's so much to discuss. But that was just an update. All right. The first real story is something that has been like sweeping the nation the past 2 days. It is about American Girl. This story is from the Daily Mail. Here we go. American Girl is accused of stripping away all innocence in a book that teaches children as young as 3 how to change gender by asking doctors for puberty blockers. I'm so sorry. A Smart Girl's Guide, Body Image, gives advice to girls as young as 3 years old on how to change their gender by asking doctors for puberty blockers. A passage in the book advises, if you haven't gone through puberty yet, the doctor might offer medicine to delay your body's changes. It also provides a list of resources for organizations that children can turn to if you don't have an adult you trust. Parents have since slammed the book's contents as deceptive and dangerous. A 96-page book billed as a guide is marketed to girls between ages 3 and 12. Brooke, do you want to share your opinion first?
Oh, well, there's a lot to unpack there. I was reading a couple different articles about this book just to gain a whole picture. I really wanted to find the book and check it out a little bit more, but I really didn't want to spend my money on supporting anything like that. It just is so disheartening for companies like Disney, companies like American Girl, companies who really are so influential on our youth to be making decisions like this
I know.
that really are encouraging kids to betray like any sort of parental control, any sort of parental oversight, I should say, and just like go behind their back, and they're encouraging them to contact outside organizations for something so serious as a sex change. If we look at, it's really interesting because if you look at the Nordic countries for a lot of these social issues, they're really non-religious. So I feel like they don't put any sort of religious spin on things like abortion or on things like transgenderism or anything like that. And so they have a severe process that you have to go through counseling. You have to go through like years of therapy and just making sure that you are mentally healthy before you make a decision like changing your gender. And here we're in America, where American Girl doll is such a, who didn't love American Girl doll growing up? I never had one, but like all my friends had one. I had the little book about puberty and all of that stuff. And
wait, you didn't have an American Girl doll?
I never did, no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyways, so
awkward. Sorry, not to bring up your trauma.
I know, but not really trauma. I didn't really care, but it's okay.
Oh, you didn't even care? Okay, that's fine. Continue.
No,
We are not the same.
It just
Continue.
This is very disheartening, to say the least. So that's how I'm feeling about all of this. Is just like really frustrated with the way that America is going, and for the most part, for me, like, if you're 18 years old and you want to do whatever you want, if you want to transition, like, that's your prerogative if you're an adult. But I do think that, like, we still need a lot of help with mental health in this country. And I think this just is kind of supporting that statement even more, that someone who got what was her specific degree, her master's degree from Kansas University that the writer got?
Ooh, I don't know.
Like, someone who's writing a book like this, you would think that they would have like a PhD and an MD and like all these accolades behind their name. And the girl that wrote this book and helped to publish it got a master's degree in like studying oversized fruit for children.
Oh,
I pull it up because it is really just.
I'm looking it up. Okay, this is why we need a Jamie, like on what's that show? Joe Rogan.
Yeah, exactly.
We need a Jamie. Okay, let's see. Well, she's refusing to apologize.
Oh my gosh.
Okay,
sorry for my quick rant there.
Okay. Let's see. About Mel. Her favorite things are trees, rainbows, and dairy-free ice cream. She went to college she studied writing and art at Hollins University. She earned her master in children's literature, where she studied misplaced and giant foods in picture books. That's interesting. Misplaced and giant foods in picture books.
Yeah, so why is this someone that is deemed appropriate to be writing a book on telling our children how to transition as young as 3 years old? But also, there really are not 3-year-olds that can read. So what kind of parents are reading a book like to their 3-year-old?
Yeah. That's a very valid point, too. I'm, like, shocked, because you're right. The first initial book, I had that book, that first initial book, I'm pretty sure, or at least I would hope and think, that it was written by someone who knew women's bodies, who had done some sort of psychology on children. I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think like just a random art girl could talk about body image. I mean, anybody can talk about body image, but like in this professional space, I mean, it's just like those fitness influencers that just randomly lost weight one time and now they have all these courses and it's like they don't have a degree or anything like that. It's kind of like that.
Yeah. Yeah, like what kind of experience and knowledge do you have to be able to speak on something like this?
Yeah. So I agree with everything you said. I actually was obsessed with American Girl. My 9th birthday, we went to New York to go to the American Girl Cafe because there was only one in New York at the time, in Chicago, and then now there's one in Charlotte. Well, I don't know if you knew
the difference between growing up poor and growing up privileged.
Middle class, not rich. That's middle class. Okay.
I'm just kidding.
I guess I don't want to.
I'm very happy that you had those experiences, Mallory.
Okay. I was like, should I even say how many dolls I had?
No, I really am not upset about it. I promise.
No, but like we would do, so our library would have like a community or like a reading day where all of us would come, we'd bring our dolls, and then they'd read one of the books, and then at the back of the book it had like an activity. So like the one I remember distinctly is making popcorn on like a stovetop. So like we would do that, and I remember seeing girls that I played soccer with nobody that I went to school with lived on my side of town, so nobody from school, but like girls that I, did other stuff, activities with. So that was like a huge part of my childhood that I distinctly remember. Mm-hmm. So it's really, 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 really disappointing seeing American Girl going in that direction, because American Girl also had a magazine. I don't know if you knew about that. They had their magazine, and they were really big on like loving yourself and loving your body and like being proud of who you are. I remember they did a whole spread on Bethany Hamilton. Remember, she was the girl who got her arm bitten by the shark, and that's how I found out about her, is from American Girl. So I'm just thinking about like American Girl went from this wonderful women, feminine,
like wholesome,
to just like, I hate the term like giving into the woke mob, but I don't know how else, or like giving into the wokeism. I don't know how else to describe it, because where is this coming from? Yeah. And also too, so I sent the article to one of my friends, and he even was like, and he's pretty moderate, but he's even like, they're kind of messing up their target market. And I was like, yeah, they kind of are. But yeah, so it's very disappointing. I think moving forward, like I will, pass down my dolls to my girls, but like I won't give them any more money. Yeah. Which is sad, because like I loved going to the store. That was so fun, and like, dressing them up, getting like different books and stuff like that. It was such a good
experience.
It was a good experience. It was fun. Also, sorry y'all. It was fun also, dressing them up and getting the magazine. I remember every other month I'd get the magazine in the mail, and it was just like, ooh, what's going on? And I don't know if you guys remember, they even did a spread of, on the girl who played, God, who was her name? She was on the, Spy Kids 3. It was her first acting gig, and they interviewed her. I think it was Courtney Jins, the girl with the brown hair. Hello.
I lost service. Sorry about that.
Okay. You're good. I was just going on about the magazine, how much I loved it as a kid, every 2 weeks or every 2 months.
Yeah, for me, when I look at things like this, when companies like Disney or companies like American Girl do things like this, it's just unnecessary to me.
Yeah.
It just is so unneeded. And I really wonder, like, what kind of focus group did they give this to that said that's a good idea?
Right.
Who supported them and said, this is going to be great marketing for you guys?
And if it's for ages 3 to 12, then like I'm not understanding why a 3 to 12-year-old would think that they're anything other than whatever their gender is. Like, I just don't get that. I don't understand how that happens. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, personally, I think I grew up around pretty much all boys. Like, I have a brother. I had 4 boy cousins that I hung out with all the time, and then we had a family with 4 boys that lived down the street that, like, we were all really good friends. So growing up, I played all the sports. I, rolled in the dirt, and I, like, wrestled with all of them, and, like, I was just very tomboyish. But my parents never once, seeing me, like, play with the boys, was like, oh, she must be a boy. No, like, and I think that's the only way that these children can really start to second guess their gender is when their parents affirm that. Their parents maybe see them be a little bit tomboyish, or maybe see them be a little bit more feminine, and are like, okay, they must be the other gender. They must have been born, a boy when they should have been a girl. Instead of just saying, oh, they're just going through a phase. I was talking to one of my best friends she is a 2-year-old boy, and she said, okay, well, he acts like he's putting on makeup when I'm putting on makeup. Does that mean he's supposed to be a girl? No, that just means he watches his mom do it.
Yeah. Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you're right. A lot of it is the parents reaffirming things. And then now that it's become more, because the other thing, I think I mentioned this in another episode, what exactly is the percentage of transgendered people? Because it's starting to feel like it's way more. I mean, if 1%, is it 10% of the population is LGB, then out of that 10%, it has to be like 1% is transgender, but I feel like it's, and I don't know if it's just because of the circles that I'm in discussing things or what, but it just feels like it's way more, like we're putting so much focus on this like super tiny part of the population.
Well, and so my husband Dan studied psychology in college, and he always talks about how, I think it was the first 3 psychology books that they publish, like DSM, I think it is. I think it's the first 3. He's probably going to correct me when I'm done with this. But that all of them classified, oh my gosh, and now I'm forgetting the psychology name.
Gender dysphoria.
Yes, thank you. All of them
gender dysphoria.
Yes, all of them classify gender dysphoria as a disorder. So something that you need counseling for, that you need help for. And now we're normalizing it. And I mean, you do see a much higher suicide rate in people who are transgender. And it really is just so sad to see these people that are struggling, for us to just be like, oh, that's normal, you're okay. Instead of saying, let's help you. Let's get you some counseling. Let's get you, instead of just affirming what your brain is telling you, we're telling them that you're totally fine. You were born the wrong sex. So go ahead and pump your body full of these hormones and change what you were made to be.
That's all I can say to that. I will say there is one company that will not give in to this ideology, and that's Garnu. Garnu is a girls only club. They have period care products, such as tampons that are 100% cotton core and period cups. You can listen to Macy, the founder, on episode 145, discuss why she created the business, and talk a little bit about like periods and femininity and how they're going to stick with those values and morals. You'll never have to worry about them promoting any of this stuff, nothing like that. So if you like them, you can use the code OtherGirls10 to get 10% off, and you can go to www.garnuu.com. All right. So this episode is really heavy, this topic, which wasn't necessarily on purpose, but these were kind of the only stories that like were really popping off this week. Usually there's a little bit more, but I couldn't really find too much. And this story isn't even like a real story. It's just something that I found on Twitter. Okay, so I will, not on Twitter. Yeah, on Twitter. I will link the TikTok, I'll probably link the Twitter that I found it on. I can't link the Twitter anymore because whoever tweeted it, like, locked their account. But the TikTok, sorry, you guys, I have to look it up really quick. The TikTok is in the same vein of what we're talking about, which is young girls transitioning before they really need to, not even before they really need to, when they don't really need to at all. Sorry, I don't know why I didn't save. Oh, you know what? Maybe it did save on my phone. The right picture. So I have to read to you what the picture says, and then I'll read you some comments. The picture says it's of this girl, and she's like, yeah, I don't really identify as a girl or like being called one. And then she says her therapist said, of course you don't. It's a defense mechanism. Being a girl hasn't been safe for you. So then the comments are what's really sad to me. One of them said, I had a questioning period where I couldn't figure out if I was trans, or I just couldn't stand how women have to live. Reminds me of when someone said, did you transition because you wanted to or because it made you feel more powerful? That is sad to me. This other person says, wait, this makes sense. So I need a question again. And then this person says, I'm pangender and love being feminine, but fear being perceived as a woman because I know it means I'm seen as less human. That's sad. This other person says, don't tell me this. I just got comfortable in my transition. Another person says, I'm gender fluid, and there was a time where I only liked he, him. I use they, she now because it turns out it was just this. So essentially they're saying that they only liked using the pronouns, they only like using the pronouns he, him, but they like they, she now because it turns out they realize that they are a woman. They just felt more comfortable being a man. And then another one said, exactly, like, am I really trans or am I just tired of being a woman? The other person says this, me and my therapist talked about it for a solid 2 years before I felt comfortable as a girl. I'm still in the phase of, is it non-binary or just internalized misogyny? So you heard most of those, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are your initial thoughts when you hear the youth are young women?
Honestly, it makes me really sad. Like, I feel like that's the best way to express, like, listening to things like that, and it makes me really sad. Like, I cannot imagine what these children are going through to make them feel like this. Like, first of all, who are your parents? What are they telling you? Or, like, why are they not supporting you? It makes me so sad. I mean, growing up in a healthy Christian family, you know, as healthy as we can be, we're all humans. But
yeah,
like, I never felt like I wasn't supported. Like, my parents were always there for me. My brother was always there for me. I never was told I wasn't good enough because I was a girl. I never was told that I couldn't do something because I was a girl. Like, if I told my parents I wanted to be an astronaut, they'd be like, all right, go to school, study hard. Like, they wouldn't be like, oh, you can't because you're a girl. Or if I wanted to be like, I want to be president, they'd be like, all right, go to school, study hard. You know? Like,
yeah.
It was never like, oh, you can't do that because you're a girl. And it just makes me so sad for all of these girls who unfairly have been told you're not good enough because of your gender, or you have to be oppressed because of your gender. Personally, I love being a woman. You know, I love dressing up girly. I love playing sports with my friends. Like, I don't think that your gender confines you into certain roles either. Like, I think girls can do whatever they want to. Like, I do think we are uniquely blessed in being able to bear children and being able to have those motherly instincts and raise them and everything. But I don't think that that's anything that needs to be frowned upon, or that girls should feel like that's going to hold them back. And I feel like that is a big thing with the next generation. It's just really sad. Like, I just watched this video of Lizzo. It was like a recap of her abortion support over the last year. And there was a video.
We should do that next week. So go ahead.
Yeah, there was a video of her on Instagram Live. Someone had asked, when are you going to start a family? And she just, like, started cracking up laughing for, like, a whole minute. And was like, oh, y'all are wild. Like, and it's just like, okay, so these young girls are watching people like Lizzo, like, scoff on people who have families or who want that for their life. Like, if you don't want that, that's fine. But there's nothing wrong with that. And so many girls feel like they just can't do what they want because they're a woman. They, you know, you're going to have sex and get pregnant, and, like, then you're going to never be able to have a career.
Live life. Yeah.
Exactly.
Your life is over. Yeah.
Exactly. So I feel like this goes hand in hand. Like, girls from a young age are told, like, you know, you fit into this one little bubble. And I just hope and pray that more girls grow up in families like the one that I did, because I have never felt like there was anything holding me back. Like, the only thing holding me back is me. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's really bleak. I've said this before, and I just feel very, unfortunately, validated in reading these comments, but I truly think a lot of I can only speak from girls to guys, because that's what I care about. This is the podcast about women. I truly think that part of the problem is we make society, make womanhood seem so terrible, seem so awful. We make it seem like it's such a burden, like, you get your period. Oh God, you get your period. It's the worst thing ever. Let's suppress that period. And it's not super fun, but I've been working on it, at least around younger people, around like my age appropriate friends. I can be a little bit more, oh my God, this is awful. But like around young people, I do try to be like, yes, I'm on my period right now. I am cramping a little bit, but that's okay, because this is my 5th vital sign, things like that. Talking about, I've mentioned this before. I saw somewhere it was like, a woman is raped every 44 minutes. I don't think that's true. And I think that when we are pushing things like that, and we're not talking about prevention, and we're also not talking about how do we get men to not do this, I can understand how a girl can be like, oh my gosh, every guy out here, I could be assaulted. Then it just will be, like that girl said, you feel more powerful identifying as a man, even though I hate to say it, a lot of these girls look kind of, they still look like girls, so it's not as, anyway, that's beside the point, but, it's things like that. It's things like, if you get pregnant, your life is over. Like, you might as well pack it up. It's the absolute worst thing that could ever happen to you. You might as well just be an old maid at this point, It's things like that, I think, that are like being ingrained in young girls, and they're kind of internalizing that. There was one that it was the one where she says, I love being feminine but fear being perceived as a woman because I know it means I'm seen as less human. And it's like, where is that coming from? It's coming from, well, a lot of these people also, too, I realize, have chronic online syndrome, which, I don't know how to fix that, but we gotta do something about that. So some of this, I'm sure, is like, you're picking it up from how people are acting on TikTok and Twitter. And let's be honest, there's tons of evil, awful people on there on both sides. But they're picking this up and they're seeing this. We, as women, as Christian women, we got to figure out how we can combat this. What do you think are some things that we can do to, like, at least, I don't know these girls, and half of me wanted to, like, message them anonymously, like, it's okay, but then I was like, that wouldn't help. But what can we do for the girls in our lives today?
So, gosh, that's a good question. I think about this a lot with, like, my younger cousins and just any of the younger girls that are in my life. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Just any of the younger girls that are in my life. How can I be positively influencing them? And I think it is just pouring truth into their lives, and also not candy coating the world, because I think, like, in the Christian bubble, we can kind of candy coat the world.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, a life in Christ is beautiful and it is great, but there's a lot of evil out there. So you really need to equip your children, equip your younger siblings, equip your younger cousins, or whoever it is that's younger in your life, equip them with some real tools to not fall into these traps. Because especially with having an online presence, you can go into the Twitter hole or on Reddit. There's a lot of crazy things on Reddit and on TikTok. You're just being fed this narrative, and it's really easy to fall into that. So I feel like the biggest positive impact that you can have on their lives is bring them out into the rural world, get them connected with real people, get them in youth group, get them in these conservative communities where they're with real people in real life, not just stuck to a screen all the time. I think that's where we start to lose ourselves, is when we are stuck to the screen all the time.
That's such a valid point. I can always tell when I've been on Twitter specifically too long, when I start like thinking and reacting to things that are just on Twitter. Only on Twitter are, you know, are like, I'm trying to think of something specific. Only on Twitter do men and women hate each other so intensely.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go on Twitter, you would think that, like, there's going to be World War III amongst the sexes. And that's just not true. So I notice when I've been on there too long is when I start reacting like that in real life. So I think you made a very valid point. Getting outside of that, being around real people, I think that will truly help. Because, I mean, something has to be done. Like, we see the problem. Everybody listening, we see the problem. Yes. We have to solve this. And the only way we'll solve this is if we do something.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, American Girl isn't helping. You know?
Yeah.
Disney isn't helping. Yeah. No one's helping, so we have to do something.
The scary thing is, I think that people are starting to behave, you know, the keyboard warriors, they're starting to behave like that in real life now.
Yes, I've noticed that too.
And that's the scary part, is like, once they're literally screaming at your face for no reason, like, how do you come back from that? Because you can't even have a conversation with that person.
Yeah. No, you're right. A lot of times, and I think it's from lockdown. I'm so sorry, you guys. I think it's from lockdown. A lot of people have, because before you would say, oh, they wouldn't say it to my face, but some of these people would, and then like not expect you to retaliate, though. That's the other problem too. But yeah, you're right. A lot of these people are taking their attitudes to real life.
Do some of these people just need a good knuckle sandwich?
Okay, Brooke.
Not from me.
Yeah.
I would never.
No. No. We don't fight here. We call police.
Yes.
Or call lawyers.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah. Anything else you want to add to this topic before we go to the final one?
I would just say keep spreading love and positivity and Jesus to everyone that you come in contact with. I think that's what the world needs.
Yeah, 100%. And make sure that you're also living that life.
Yeah.
Too. Definitely. Like, make sure you're living the life of someone who doesn't loathe being a woman if you're going to be talking to other girls about being a woman.
Yeah.
Because there's benefits for sure. I mean, and like Brooke said, it's not, we don't have to sugarcoat it. Having your period is not always the best experience, but it's also not the worst.
That's what makes us women, and that's what we can bond over, and also men don't understand. So that's just a unique woman experience that we can be like, oh, he just doesn't get it.
Yeah, it's a girls only club.
Exactly.
Okay, so our last story. This is a very women's heavy episode, but our last story is something very interesting. I don't know if you saw it. I added it like, I don't know, a couple hours ago. Someone suggested this story when I asked on my Instagram last night, because last story, I like it to be kind of like something odd and strange. Mm-hmm. And they suggested this. Are you ready?
Yes.
Australia moves ahead cautiously with 3-parent IVF. The nation follows the UK in permitting mitochondrial donation, which aims to prevent the transmission of rare but often fatal conditions. Okay, let me see here. Okay, sorry, I was trying to find the specific part where it talks about 3 people, but this is also very interesting too. So Australia has become the second country after the UK to legalize a fertility procedure that mixes genetic material from 3 people. The technique is meant to prevent couples from having children with certain debilitating disorders caused by faulty mitochondria, the energy-generating structures in our cells. but it's controversial because it involves a genetic change that can be passed to future generations. So its rollout in Australia will be extremely cautious. On March 30th, the Australian Senate passed the Mitochondrial Donation Law Reform Bill, also known as Maeve's Law, named after a 6-year-old Australian girl with a mitochondrial disorder called Leigh syndrome. The disease caused a loss of mental abilities and motor skills over time, and those born with it will typically do not survive beyond childhood. Mitochondria have their own DNA, which is passed to children from their mother's egg. If a mother carries mutations in her mitochondrial DNA for disorders like Leigh syndrome, she could have a child with one of these diseases. These disorders are rare and often fatal, and treatments are extremely limited. Mitochondrial donation, also known as mitochondrial replacement therapy, was developed as a way to let the mother pass along almost all her genes material, but not the mitochondrial DNA. The procedure takes advantage of the fact that the vast majority of our DNA resides in the nucleus of the cells. Okay, that's too sciencey.
Yeah, the mitochondria, the nucleus of the
yeah, that's enough. I'll link it, everyone, so if you're a science girly, you can read it. But those of us who just want to know a summary, that's what it is. So essentially, what they're doing is they're adding another egg to the mixture to do IVF that they're doing with the sperm to make sure that whatever disease is in the egg of the mother is not passed down to the child. Crazy. Just as strange as a couple of weeks ago, we reported on them creating artificial wombs. So, like, not needing a host, like a human host, I guess, to like create a child. What'd you say?
Didn't they create a lamb through that?
Yeah, they created a lamb, and they're working on humans. So, and now they're trying to do humans with three genetic DNAs. So what do you think about this?
That, like, I can't even wrap my mind around that.
I know.
I am so not a science person at all. I am like, that literally makes no sense to me.
I know.
Personally, as a 100% pro-lifer, I don't agree with IVF anyways. You know, I mean, I think that everyone deserves to be a parent, and unfortunately there is a lot of infertility struggles in our world, which I think adoption
part of the
is so
sin
beautiful.
nature.
What?
Mm-hmm. I said that's part of the sin.
Yeah.
Part of the fall.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and a part of what we eat, what we put in our bodies, what we use on our bodies. I can get into a whole thing on that, but that's beside the point. So I personally don't agree with IVF, so obviously, like, I would not side with this either. It just seems like why are we trying this hard, people?
And my thing is, like, I guess someone thought we could, but did anyone think we should? Like, this is interesting. Like, if you're sciencey, I'm sure it's like, ooh, fascinating. Wow. But should we be doing this? That's the question. Is this, I don't know.
And maybe the thought behind it was to try to eradicate some of these diseases that are really detrimental to the humans that they impact. And of course, obviously, like, that's good intent, but it's just like, what are the costs of it? Like, what are we willing to risk to eradicate some diseases?
Right. And I think I have been thinking this since I was a kid. When my mom was telling me, I have a cousin who's like really sciencey. She actually, she's a breast cancer doctor, and she did all this research, and she was on a team that, this was years ago, I think it was before I was even born. They were researching like cloning. And, I remember my mom was talking to me about it, and I remember thinking like, this is strange. Like, we're playing God. And this was years ago when cloning was like, ooh, can they clone? Is this possible? So, I mean, seeing how far we've come, and seeing how far it's gotten is it's a little scary. Little, like Kiki Palmer said, a little spooky ooky. To see how far society has gotten. Well, we're almost done the episode.
My parents are sending me my charger for my laptop that I left in California next week, so then I won't have to do this on my phone anymore, but
once again, donate to thosarethegirls.com/Patreon so we can get rid of these issues. Anyway, you were saying? I was saying, yes. I was saying, like, even when I was a kid, just thinking about, like, cloning, that always felt like a little bit like, okay, we're playing God. And it also kind of felt far away. Like, these type of things, I feel like I've seen, like, Twilight Zone episodes about it or The Outer Limits episodes about it. And it's like, now it's today. Like, this is the news today.
I was going to say, if you don't think there are clones walking on this earth. Oof.
Oh, do you think there's actual human clones out there?
Yeah. You kidding me?
Oh, interesting. Okay. I don't necessarily disagree. Okay, since we're on this topic really quick. I've been listening to, and one of our Patreons, we've talked about this. I've been listening to Blurry Creatures. It's this podcast that is Christian, but they talk about, like, cryptids and the paranormal and, like, I don't know how else to describe it, but, like, they talk about, they just talk about all this random stuff. And they did this episode, I'll link it because to me, it was very good, of this lady who has been abducted by aliens since she was a kid. And she's a Christian, and she's like, I believe her. I believe everything she said. Like, if you guys listen to that, it was very, and one thing I like about the podcast, except for I've heard one or two, but because of the guests, one or two were not, but the majority of the episodes are very grounded in the sense of, like, because when you're listening to that stuff, there's the people. And then I saw this, and I remember they're doing all this big talking, and then, like, none of the guests are like that. Yes, this is what I saw, and I'm telling you, well, in the Bible it says, and stuff like that, and, like, she was referenced, like, that's what I like about it, too, like, she referenced the Bible, and what she talked about, like, anyway, so that made me think of that, because she was saying how there are people who are mixed aliens that are walking around, and, like, she can tell because there's just something a little different about them. And in my head, I was like, oh my God, I never want her to see me. Because, like, what if I am? And you just don't know it. Because there's people, and another guy was on, he was saying there's people who have Nephilim DNA and they just don't know it. That's why X, Y, and Z happens. This is what he said was crazy, because I was like, oh God. He was saying that it's kind of almost like split personality. He was like, think about the people who are Christians and they love God and they worship Him and they want to be there for Him. But then on Saturday nights, they're out, like, partying. And I was like, ooh. But, like, that was one of the guys that wasn't very grounded. That was an interesting episode. But the rest of them are very grounded. And, when you said the clone thing, that's what that made me think of. I wonder if they've done episodes on clones.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'd love to hear more about that, for sure.
Yeah. It's a really good podcast. I'm, like, obsessed with it right now. That's my favorite podcast.
In college, my friends and I used to just talk about crazy stuff like that all the time, that we're like,
so did
this is real. And then we'd, like, look it up and, like, dive deeper into it and stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah. And also, too, since we're on this topic really quick, when I was younger, I was so into cryptids. Like, go to the library, get the books, reading all the stuff, watching all. I was like, I wanted to be a cryptozoologist, but at the time, that wasn't a real thing. I mean, I guess it still isn't really a real thing. It's more of like you're super rich and have nothing else to do type of hobby. But I was, like, super into it. And then at some age, I kind of was like, whatever. But recently, I've just been really back into it, and, like, it seems like just learning about all the different things going on. To me, that's my type of conspiracy. I want to hear about that. I don't want to hear about people drinking blood. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
This is what I care about.
I care about it all. I'm interested.
I don't want to hear about the blood. I don't want to hear about those human sacrifices. Tell me how you saw a Watcher. Tell me more about the Watchers. Like, that's what I want to hear about. But anyway, that's that. I'll leave that link, you guys. Interesting things going on. Oh, actually, sorry. This also reminds me of the episode of that show. A guy was talking about Atlantis, about, like, what he was saying Atlantis was real and everything. And it was like, what caused Atlantis to fall? he said genetic mutation was one of the reasons. And look at us now. Scary.
Well, yeah.
On that note, I hope everybody has a great rest of your day.
Thanks so much for listening.
If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you rate, review, like, subscribe. However, wherever you're listening, follow Brooke on all of your stuff. Let us know, where should they follow you?
At Brooke Larkin _life is Instagram. You can keep up with pretty much everything that I do on there. And I posted my picture with Mike Pence this week. So if you want to see that, check it out. It was a lot of fun. So message me if you listen to this too. I would love to catch up.
Yay! Okay, thank you, Brooke, so much for being on. And she will come back on again eventually one day. And then you'll see her more on the Instagram as well. Also, too, I'm sure you've seen her 1,000 times on my personal Instagram. If you're following that. All right, you guys. Just a few. Bye.
Bye.